Hello friends and welcome back to a new episode of Harstem Hunts Hackers, in which I go over the replays that you guys sent to me claiming to be fighting against map hackers. Today we have Clowns Hackermans here in the top left as our red Protoss player fighting against Joe Muffero, who sent in this replay saying, hey Harstem, this was a pretty suspicious game. There's a couple of fog of war peaks, no scouting whatsoever. This guy is clearly a hacker. So we already witnessed a beautiful screen peek. We saw this probe move down for no reason whatsoever, except to follow this probe. And I'm very curious to see what our good friend Hackermans here is up to. Now, of course, the reward for being called a hacker is that you get straight reported to my contact at Blizzard and hopefully get banned within a couple of days. My contact at Blizzard doesn't always work as fast, but majority of the time, these people end up biting the dust. So this might just be your unlucky day, Mr. Hackermans. We're going to have to wait and see. Of course, I anonymize all the names of the people that are the alleged hackers because I have gotten some replays that aren't entirely clear on whether the person is a hacker, and I don't want you guys to know what the actual nickname of this player is. All right, oof. Some rough fog of war checks there. I'm actually gonna go back in time for a little bit, figure out exactly what we were looking at over here. Okay, so we go into our main base, then we pop on over. Okay, we start attacking this thing. We pop on over here, which really has nothing available, but whatever. Then we go to the right. So I think we scouted for some type of tech, which once again isn't quite available yet. And then we throw down a Stargate as a response. This is such a beautiful show of potential hacking, but done by someone that seems to have no clue as to how to respond. Okay, we get another cheeky little screen peek. Scouts most likely the Twilight Council. So Stargates are very good if you build them quickly. They actually really suck as a tool to respond to whatever it is you're scouting in the PvP matchup. This is just a bad building to have unless you build it very rapidly. The reason for that is the moment that Warp Gate finishes up, Stalkers will be capable to be built, and Stalkers are extremely powerful against Oracle, which is the main unit that you want to be building out of a Stargate anyway. So building a Stargate as a response to something almost never makes sense unless you scout a robotics facility, like a fast robotics facility with an immortal push, and then you can respond with Phoenixes maybe. We hardly ever see this because Phoenixes genuinely suck, but in that very niche scenario, I think it might be okay to have a Stargate as a reaction to something you see. Now, this is some solid movement here. I kind of want to see how he did that exactly. So he is completely downstairs, zero scouting information, then magically decides to walk, 5 Stalkers into the main base. To do what? To deny a potential Oracle? No. To deal with a hallucination scout, which, by the way, still gets the full scout off. So even with this scout denial, we see that our good friend Joe, who sent in the replay, has spotted that the first unit is going to be a Void Ray from this Stargate, and that there is actually a Stargate out as well. So a job not done, we could call it here, for Clowns Hackermans, who's going to continue his path into more Stargates and more Void Rays. This is, I think, one of the things that frustrates me most when watching this guy. I'm pretty sure is a hacker. When watching hackers play, is that they're not really using the information because they either seem to be lacking a brain or just have no clue how to play. Like an analogous situation that we could sketch is where you'd pay someone to match fix. So you pay someone to lose a game, and then you bet on the other guy. That is very often what I feel like here while watching these hackers play. Like, they have the full information and they should theoretically always be capable of making the perfect call. But for whatever reason, they're too dumb to understand what that correct call is. Well, most of the time, they're very straightforward. Like, you see someone building a lot of Blink Stalkers early on, probably going for air units, which tend to be countered by high numbers of Stalkers, isn't quite the way to move forward. You could say, hey, why doesn't this dude just play pure robotics facility, for example? If you know that your opponent is playing Twilight Council, that could be something you do, especially if you know your opponent's blink movement. Immortals are actually really good against Stalkers. Like, I wouldn't mind that at all. Instead, he's actually just messing air, which this saddens me so much because messing air doesn't actually require any knowledge or info. Like nothing would have changed if he had zero information here. He could have just been building 2 Stargates and a Robo blindly. He can do this every single game and probably play just fine at this level. Like, he's not actually using the one advantage he has, which is mind-blowing. I really wonder if people that hack have like the genuinely lower IQ, or they just don't feel the need to think. This is a serious question, because every single time I watch them play, this is just kind of what happens. Like, they just have no clue about the game and thus are unable to use their newfound ability of seeing everything. Moves all the Stalkers over here to the 3rd base. I'm fully expecting an attack here in a couple of seconds. Oh, beautiful move out. There we go. Sends everything over here all of a sudden. We have no real reason. Builds 2 batteries. Some nice Fog of War peeking as well. Completely blind here on the bottom left side, by the way. Like any double adept attack. Could just clear a bunch of workers, or just a full-on attack over here could clear both of these batteries. We're seeing none of that right now. Goes +1 attack into +1 armor. I'm not sure why we're getting armor upgrades here. Like, if your goal is to play mass air, surely a faster fleet beacon is going to be the way. So many Stalkers as well, which are very heavy on gas and just really expensive. I'd much rather see Immortals in the mix. They're just better, more valuable. You already have the robotics facility that hasn't been used a single time yet, by the way. Let's not forget about that. Chronos hardly being used. So it's kind of moving around. Okay, now this attack is really starting to take place. Another battery goes up. Another Stalker. These are like panic warp-ins, despite knowing exactly what the opponent has. Like, look at this situation here. Like, you don't actually want more Stalkers at this point. What you want is more Immortals. Maybe you want some cannons. Maybe you want to get some carriers out at some point, or units that are better than Void Rays. In general, you don't actually want this army composition in PvP whatsoever. Which is what frustrates me so much. He now shoots the super battery at an instant. Not quite sure why our good friend Joe is deciding to attack into a super battery. I feel like we should definitely wait that out, at least a little bit. Void Rays here. I mean, not really being microed. This is probably actually a fine fight here for Joe. No? Void Rays are just so freaking bad against high Stalker numbers. Like, once they start getting one-shot, Void Rays actually really do suck. And then Blink is still available. Can get another warp in because infrastructure is much better here for the non-Void Ray player as well. It just doesn't... Legit, if he had 3 Immortals in this composition, this fight would have been one of the most one-sided fights in the entire world. Instead, he had freaking 15 Stalkers, that hardly do any damage, that don't have any attack upgrades on them. And now he's forced into giving up this 3rd base. It is just sad to watch. I'm almost tempted to start like a GoFundMe or something for these guys. So you can do some research into the, into this condition of being born without a brain. Because that's really what it often feels like. Has a forge, hasn't built a single cannon, no attack upgrade. Now we're finally gonna start our first Immortal, which makes no sense. Because the entire time he's aware of the fact that there's mass Stalker out already, and just now we're getting our Immortals. It's like he's learning in the game that if the other dude has better upgrades and Blink, that building a lot of Stalkers yourself isn't actually a very viable answer. Which is a wild discovery to make this far in. I don't actually know what this MMR is, but it feels like it's probably somewhere around Masters, no? The way that our good friend Joe is playing here. I feel like he's doing a pretty okay job. Low Masters-ish? Yeah. Mid-Master? I don't actually know what this is. Sure, it's in the email, but too lazy to pull that up. Can't believe I went to check the email and I actually didn't say the league in it, but it feels like a Masters level player here. At least Joe feels like a Masters level player. Hackermans feels like a Void Ray. Like, he honestly just feels like every single Void Ray player, except that's a neat cancel there, brother. That's a very neat cancel. Well done. We're all proud of you. Most Void Ray players, like most mass Airtos players at this level, have figured out that when you're playing Airtos, the best thing to do is to actually just build air units. And if you're going to supplement it, is to do it with robotics facility units, whether that's Immortals or Disruptors. I don't really care, but building mass Stalkers makes no sense. Loving the Flux Veins here, pretending like he's ever going to move out with this, which we know for a fact he won't. No +2 attack yet. This macro is awful as well. Truly god awful. It is just wild to me that people can play like this. What even is the fun in this? Like, first of all, people that play Airtals every single game, not a huge fan of that. Not a huge fan of it because I don't find it very interesting. But then on top of that, hacking. So the only thing that would be interesting, which would be the scouting and figuring out what your opponent is doing, that also gets ruined for you. This is like playing a Professor Layton game and then just Googling all the answers of the puzzles. And the worst part is this guy isn't even like very high level, so who's he gonna brag to? You know, it's like, you can't really brag to your friends that you're hard stuck in like Diamond 1 despite hacking and playing the most brain-dead style. It's like, what is the point really? This is like the people that buy a puzzle book that has been filled in by like a second-hand puzzle book that has been filled in already. And like frame it on the wall. I don't know anyone that does that or would do that. It just doesn't make any sense. He's just building more Stalkers. Like, it's obvious this guy has never solved a puzzle in his entire life by himself. He's building freaking Stalkers without Blink, with worse upgrades, against someone else that has Stalkers with +3 and Blink. How could that be the counter? It can't. It just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. Like, your units are just worse, and he just keeps building them, which is extremely frustrating to watch. Once again, especially given the fact that he has the full information. They shouldn't be so hard to figure out. I feel like the biggest insult about all of this is the fact that Joe... Actually, I want to quote this line properly from the email here. I want to quote this line, because I loved it so much. Listen to this. The only reason I checked the replay was because he quit out of nowhere. Like, Joe didn't even realize that this guy was map hacking. But he was so confused why his opponent quit out of nowhere that he then went to watch the replay from his opponent's point of view. That is how he figured it out. How sad is that? This is like using steroids for 6 years. And then people never really asking you if you've ever used steroids. You know, I feel like in a way, people that use steroids, they kind of want other people to ask, you know? They want them to think that they could be using steroids. And then they want to deny it, you know? It's like, no, all natural here, baby. Like, our man Hackerman's over here has never been asked. You know? This guy doesn't have any arms. You could not hide behind his arms. They're thin. That's completely fine. Yeah, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You're cheating, my friend. You want people to kind of suspect you, you know? It's a compliment. But no one even suspects you. 2 more Stalkers. Boom. Throw them in there. Maybe this time my 14 unupgraded Stalkers will beat his 29. +2 attack air, or attack... The air upgrade +2 is faster here for Hackerman, so that is impressive. Very cool indeed. Just gonna speed this up a little bit. I'm not gonna watch an Airtals guy just sit on 4 bases while pumping Stalkers. I'd actually be shocked if he loses this, or if he wins this game, by the way. He's getting absolutely outplayed. Despite the perfect defensive rotations every single time. Carrier versus Carrier is now going to be the name of the game. I think this is the one time where Hackermans actually might have an advantage, right? Like, if we take a look at the armies here, 6 Carriers versus 3, 2 Immortals, 2 Void Rays. I mean, this is the only time where you probably can make a good case for Hackermans moving across the map and winning this game. He builds a couple more Carriers. Lovely, by the way, that he just continues building Carriers in the face of Tempest. This is just so sick. He has no clue what the counter is to his army. He thinks that more Carriers is just better. He's now gonna go across. Like, theoretically, he should probably attack right now. Like, this is the key moment. There's not a high number of Tempest, right? Like, we have 2 with 4 more on the way. Like, this is the best moment to attack. And he's actually gonna go for it. Now he's gonna move back a little bit. But, like, this is as good as it's gonna get. Because from here on out, you're down in eco, you're down in bases. Your infrastructure is worse for some reason. You have 5 Stargates for Joe versus the 3 for Hackermans. It just doesn't make any sense. Did he just start building Tempest himself after seeing the Tempest shooting at his stuff? Is that what happened? Is this what turned on the light in the head of Hackermans? Like, ooh, long-range unit. Specialist anti-air long-range unit. Better than carrier. Interesting. Let me try to build some of those myself. Like, why would you even want full information? It's like handing someone the dictionary, then asking the definitions of words, then realizing the guy can't read. This guy is a moron. This is just so depressing to watch. Like, as a StarCraft enthusiast, you know? He doesn't do anything right. And that's completely fine. But how is it possible? Like, you'd feel like that at some point he'd accidentally make a right call, you know? Just probability-wise. But he consciously makes the effort to get the wrong outcome every single time. Which is, quite frankly, impressive. Couple more Tempest. Why do you need to look at all your buildings while they're building? I love the cheeky little... The fog of war peaks to make sure that his army is still smaller. And soon to also be worse upgraded. He already knows he's dead in this game. He's not going to win any fights anymore. It's 13 Tempest versus 6. This guy doesn't use control groups because he's never had to. This has to be depressing as well when you're playing it, no? Like, knowing that the other guy is just so much better than you are, that no matter how many advantages you get, you're just not gonna win. Is there a storm here? Why the hell do we have 3 Templars just idling? What was that? Get it together, Joe. Good control by Joe. It's gonna snipe basically every air unit, which I do like. It's just easy. Hackermans is just queuing up 3 more times. It's like, maybe if my 4 Stargates will now start producing Tempest at full speed, I can have the bigger numbers. As Joe gets a couple of carriers out as well. He knows he has the superior Tempest count. Loving the way he plays. Joe is a true gangster. It's a minor oversaturation here on the extra base as well. Checks the gold here in the bottom left. 3 more Stargates for Joe. Hackermans checks the army. 24 out of 16. Let me just get my gases. Maybe I can still do it. Gold base still here. Army still looking spicy. Maybe he's busy counting. That's why he has to keep doing it again and again. Like, oh, it's not that quick of a counter. What did he even see? You had to leave the game. This was kind of a sudden GG. At least you should try to fight now in the end. This is what I would do, but... Because he sees the army. Look at his processing time. That's like 5 seconds. What the hell is going on in this guy's brain? So here he clicks. Look at this. It's like 1910 where he goes and checks. So here he checks. He's counting. He's counting. He's like, freaking 12 Tempest. Then he goes back to himself. He selects all of his Tempest. He's like, I have 8. He has like 5 seconds to Google whether 8 or 12 is higher. Gets the answer back that it's 12. Like, oh, never mind. I'm out. Jesus Christ. All right. Well, Joe, thanks for the replay. Much appreciated, brother. You're doing all of us a service, taking this guy off the ladder. If you believe you also have a hacker replay, be sure to send it in to Harstem's email at gmail.com. Label it map hacker. Please watch this, Harstem. I swear it's a real, no, just map hacker is fine. And perhaps next time I make a video about this, it will be your replay instead of Joe's replay. And maybe it is a hacker again, but maybe it also isn't. All right, that's going to be it for me today. I hope you all had a great time watching this video. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And leave a comment down below, which I will definitely read as well. Love you all. Bye-bye.